Be it environmental, physical, scientific, or medicinal, Biologic will get to the heart of the matter. Coming up in this edition of Biologic, in Afghanistan the Mujahideen are still making explosions, but now it's for a more peaceful and profitable cause. Researchers have found that young men prefer to look at pretty girls than other men or less beautiful women. That's not exactly a major breakthrough. And an exhibition on beauty that shows not everything is how it first appears. We take you to Africa to witness the science of alternative healing. And fossils of dozens of dinosaurs, including that of a 35-meter Seismosaurus, have been assembled using cranes and other heavy equipment in preparation for the world's largest dinosaur exposition. High in the thin air of the Hindu Kush mountain range in northern Afghanistan, the fierce Mujahideen have been digging for gemstones to finance their holy war since the Soviet Union invaded in 1979. Now they are no longer Mujahideen, but regular Afghan miners who use the same methods. They use Norwegian and Chinese power drills to dig shallow boreholes into which they place explosives found in the warheads of discarded missiles or in bombs. Wrapped in scarves against the chill of the mountain air and under the watchful eyes of their armed comrades, they light the 30-second fuse and run away from the explosion. The explosion rips through the ground and sends a shower of rock fragments and dust into the pristine air. When the dust settles from the shower of rock fragments, the miners search for the green fuel that helped feed 23 years of war in Afghanistan, and which some hope might now help fund the peace. Emeralds. At the emerald mines in the Panjshir Valley area, they chip away at the hard rock with picks and shovels. The miners look for yellow sand, which they say is a sign that the rock may contain some gemstones. But ultimately, wealth or continuing poverty is just a matter of luck. They sell the emeralds to businessmen who carry them on to Pakistan, Hong Kong, America, Saudi Arabia, and other countries. The profits from the emerald mines had helped the legendary warlord Ahmad Shah Massoud, who was assassinated in 2001, pay for his army. First to fight the Russians, and more recently, the fundamentalist Taliban. Since the Taliban were ousted, following a massive US air offensive and lightning advances by the ethnic minority-led Northern Alliance, it's become less clear who benefits from the rich vein of gems. Before the Taliban, there used to be a lot of miners looking for emeralds, but when the Taliban took over, they all left, and few of them have returned. While most miners blast the rocks in search of emeralds, others scour the vast complex of caves in the mountain range for the precious stone. Over the years, the miners have dug caves as deep as 150 meters into the rock face, where it's hard to breathe. They don't use scaffolding or supports, and sometimes a blast will bring the tunnel ceiling crashing down. With headlamps lighting up the way, the miners drill the walls of the caves to extract emeralds. The emeralds make their way to the capital Kabul, where traders value and weigh the stones. Now, and even during the jihad, mining was the only income for the Mujahideen, whether it was emeralds, lapis, salt, or other minerals. The late Ahmad Shah Massoud would let his people keep some of the profits, and the rest would be used to buy arms to defend the country, according to emerald dealer Haji Nur ul Haq. But now, not all the money from the emeralds goes to the miners. According to Islamic law and the Council of Islamic Leaders, 10% of the emeralds discovered goes to the military, and 90% of the emeralds found goes to the people themselves. Business as usual, it seems, is the theme that is slowly returning to Afghanistan. An age-old vice has returned to Afghanistan with refugees who fled the Taliban regime. Shops selling snuff and other tobacco products are appearing in Kabul's bazaars. Tins of snuff are for sale on corner kiosks throughout the capital. Since the demise of the Taliban government, which banned all tobacco products, tobacconists have been returning from exile to deliver nicotine highs to thousands of eager consumers. The advertising of cigarettes and tobacco has been prohibited in Afghanistan since 1971, but this did little to dampen the spirits of young and old that queued outside the shanty stores to obtain their fix for the day. With the black market prices for Western cigarettes at around $2 a packet, the comeback of this ancient tradition is taking Afghanistan by storm. More than 100 tons of the potent powder is gobbled up annually in the capital, but is even more popular in the northern regions. Approximately 1,400 million cigarettes were imported into Afghanistan in 2002, 0.2% of world total, with little change since 1980. However, it's likely that this is greatly underestimated, since other reports indicate that in 2002, imports from Pakistan alone amounted to 2,336 million cigarettes. The bulk of tobacco leaves brought into Kabul is imported from Pakistan, with small amounts grown in Kabul and other central provinces of the war-torn country. Then the snuff is made here, where it's sold to wholesalers who export it to Logar, Gardez and many other provinces in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is at the forefront in the snuff trade, and with other countries like Pakistan, Iran, India, Turkey and Uzbekistan provide most of the Eastern Asian market. Tobacco has been traditionally used in Afghanistan for hundreds of years, before it was distributed to the bazaar under a special program controlled by the government, who handed out contracts, and according to those contracts it was distributed to Kabul and other provinces, but then came the Taliban. After the Taliban took over the government, the production of snuff and cultivation of tobacco was completely stopped. Ancient machinery is used to slowly pulverize the dried leaves, and a process ensues that renders a fine powder, of which a small amount is chewed by thousands of nicotine addicts throughout the country. Although small, snuff is one of the few products exported out of Afghanistan as the country struggles to survive after decades of civil war. And if snuff isn't your choice of nicotine delivery, then how about lollipops? The US Food and Drug Administration ordered 3 internet pharmacies to stop selling lollipops laced with nicotine. They were promoted as alternatives to nicotine patches, gum or inhalers, as aids to quitting smoking or for smokers in non-smoking environments such as aeroplanes. The FDA said the ingredient, nicotine salicylate, was untested and therefore an unapproved drug. The pops could also be dangerous to children. A study in the Archives of Internal Medicine says that women who go on hormone replacement therapy to protect their bones can safely stop taking it after 3 years. Researchers followed 495 women and found that those who took hormones for 7 years had no more bone benefit from it than women who took it for 3 years. The study is part of doctors' ongoing effort to afford patients the benefits of HRT without the risks, which may include an increased risk of breast and uterine cancer. Women may also face new risk in taking birth control pills as well. A large study just revealed that women who use the pill face a slightly increased risk of developing breast cancer. A study presented at the 3rd European Breast Cancer Conference estimated the increased risk at about 26%, compared with women who never used the pill. The highest increased risk was among women over 45 who were still using the pill, who faced a nearly 150% greater risk of breast cancer. However, studies have shown the pill can help protect women from ovarian cancer. And 5 men have developed permanent vision loss while taking the impotence drug Viagra. Researchers report in the journal Ophthalmology that the cases, although rare or possibly coincidental, must be taken seriously. Viagra had already been known to temporarily affect vision in some patients, causing some to see things tinted blue or green. Popular prescription painkiller Vioxx is being linked to 5 cases of serious meningitis. An inflammation of the brain and spinal cord, meningitis is usually caused by bacteria. Rarely, however, it can be a side effect of common painkillers like ibuprofen. All 5 cases occurred in people aged 16 to 67, and symptoms occurred within 2 weeks of starting Vioxx. Now there is one more reason depressed middle-aged women might benefit from taking antidepressants like Prozac. US researchers at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota report that Prozac can safely and significantly relieve hot flashes in women who've been treated for breast cancer. The results of the 8-week study published in the Journal of Clinical Oncology found that women experienced a 50% decrease in the frequency and severity of the hot flashes while taking the antidepressant for the first 4 weeks of the study. Researchers say this is great news for women who have had breast cancer and are unable to take estrogen to alleviate hot flashes. Here's another alternative use for medication. An aspirin a day might keep prostate cancer away. Also at the Mayo Clinic, researchers found that men over 60 who use non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like aspirin and ibuprofen reduce their risk of prostate cancer as much as 60%. Since all the research participants were Caucasian, there's no data on whether the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs will help prevent prostate cancer in men of other races. The clinic advises against taking aspirin without the recommendations of a physician. Familiarity may breed contempt, but in the case of ethnicity, it increases memory and heightens brain activity, according to Stanford University researchers. A study was conducted using magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, to monitor brain activity of black and white ethnic groups while viewing photos of their own race. Scientists found that both groups had increased brain stimulation when looking at members of their own race and markedly less brain activity while viewing images of other races. Dr. John Gabrielli of Stanford University said it was thought that individuals have superior memory for their own groups because they're exposed to people of the same race in their families, schools and churches. But there's no scientific evidence to prove this. Gabrielli also noted that although many aspects and workings of the brain have been observed, this is one of the first glimpses at the influence of social environment on brain function. And it appears that striking beauty can motivate the masses, whether it's to go to the movies or buy a particular product. Now science is learning why. Researchers in Boston have shown evolutionary old parts of the brain involved in basic survival light up to the sight of a beautiful woman's face. Researchers at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston gave young, single heterosexual men a photoseries of average male and female faces and a series of beautiful faces taken from modeling agencies. While inside an MRI scanner, the men chose to look at the beautiful female faces the most. At the same time, scientists observed a primitive part of their brains being activated. This area has been previously associated with rewards such as money, food and drugs, like cocaine. Dr. Hans Breiter, the research team leader, has greater hopes for this research. A few decades from now, he envisions droids with artificial human behavior replacing rescue workers at disaster sites such as Ground Zero, or even being able to direct traffic. Psychologist Nancy Etkoff, author of Survival of the Prettiest, says this research confirms men's reaction to beauty is hardwired, explaining that beauty causes pleasure and uncharacteristic actions. That means certain faces will sell a lot of magazines and plenty of tickets at the box office. Dolls generally reflect the positive aspects of society, but these dolls, part of an exhibition called Dangerous Beauty, are covered in beeswax and twine. The Barbies have been mummified to subdue their sexuality and to allow the public to look at them objectively. A photo by Janine Antoni shows a woman's fingernails fused together, beautiful but impossible to live with. Another shows mature twins. One is powdering away the wrinkles of the other, echoing the promises of the cosmetics industry. Most of the pieces are attractive, yet, when viewed closely, their components are senseless or ugly. A bouquet of flowers is actually held together with intravenous tubing, some melted and dripping. In an awesome display of tenacity, artist Daniela Dooling has sewn thousands of false fingernails to a straitjacket. Beside the jacket stands a beautiful black fur negligee. The fur is made up of 5,000 sets of human eyelashes. Dangerous Beauty, an exhibit at the Jewish Community Center in Manhattan, is a look at how society's notion of beauty is acted out in reality. Curator Manon Sloan came up with the idea after reading fashion magazines and watching her two children deal with adolescent life. She says she worries that the pressure for women and men to be thinner and thinner and to look younger and younger may be an ideal that's impossible to reach. Gorgeous models preach to the millions on billboards, movies and magazines, and according to Sloan, the message is often ugly. People compare themselves to these airbrushed beauties and feel that everything about themselves is wrong, and then hurt themselves emotionally and physically in trying to emulate these impossible standards of perfection. Objects like walkers become a symbol of beauty, masking reality. Dangerous Beauty is a small exhibit, yet it strives to teach lessons of immeasurable value. Baby Pete Chamani's life isn't in danger. Quite the opposite. He's being cleansed of evil spirits. Both he and his mother Constance have been ill for 2 weeks, so they've come to see Mama Joyce Moagi, a top traditional healer in South Africa's northern town of Tzaneen. In this area, traditional healers or sangomas are still frequently consulted as an alternative to modern medicine when it has either failed or is unaffordable. In many parts of the world, the use of traditional medicine is frowned upon and still regarded as primitive and unorthodox. Mama Moagi has gone a step further and is combining traditional medicine and Christianity to offer more than just physical healing. With a razor, Mama Moagi scratches the boy's body and applies ash to the scratches. Little Pete is now permanently protected from unwanted spirits. Her son's health taken care of, it's the turn of his mother Constance. First, the healer makes her diagnosis the Sangoma way. After the bones have fallen, Mama Moagi knows exactly what's wrong with her patient. Mama Moagi comes from a family of Sangomas, but she only started healing 13 years ago when she had a terminal illness that couldn't be treated at hospital. Now she runs a Sangoma school with 16 pupils. She's also a staunch Christian, so much so that she's built a Zionist church on her compound, a branch of Christianity introduced by missionaries, which has established itself in its own right in South Africa. With its strong emphasis on healing, it goes well with Mama Moagi's way of life. Mainstream Christianity dismisses traditional healing as primitive and evil, but that hasn't affected Mama Moagi's Sangoma business. People who proclaim themselves Christians flock in numbers here at night. Life on Mama Moagi's compound revolves around her unique mix of faith and healing. Every sunset, initiates assemble to sing and dance. They grunt and rub their hands to bring them closer to their ancestors. The following morning is a Sunday, and Christianity takes over. Everyone dresses in white. The women cover their heads. The altar is a table lined with a red, white and black cloth, the colours of the Zionist Church. After a short reading from the Bible, she begins to preach. Her message today is one of love. Towards the end of the service, she offers the coin from her altar to God, asking Him to cure the sick whom she can't help with her own medicine. She prepares herbs and potions and gets ready for the hundreds of patients, both Christian and non-Christian, who will flock here to be healed in the week that lies ahead. A Jurassic Park is set to open in Japan, showcasing the assembled fossils of more than 40 dinosaurs amidst a forest of giant ferns and other prehistoric greenery. Workers have spent days assembling towering dinosaur skeletons ahead of the opening of the world's largest dinosaur expo using cranes and other heavy equipment. The main attraction of the 2-month event, which gathers dinosaurs and their parts from a dozen different countries under one roof, is the 35-meter Seismosaurus, a 50-ton herbivore dinosaur which roamed the area, which is now New Mexico in the United States, 150 million years ago. The bones of the Seismosaurus were first discovered in the mid-1980s. Paleontologists were able to find about 20% of the bone fossils, and they spent a decade or so deducing from the parts found what the dinosaur looked like. The replica of the fossil skeleton took 2 years to make and was commissioned especially for this expo. This is the first time this particular species of dinosaur has been put together three-dimensionally. Even the people who made this representation didn't have enough room to put the whole thing together at once. So this is the first time the skeleton has been together in 150 million years since it walked the Earth. In addition to the replica skeleton, the original fossils of the Seismosaurus are also on display. Ahead of the start of the expo, the dinosaurs were displayed to the media and select members of the public. Hundreds of men in business suits joined children who came to the expo straight after school to see the dinosaurs. The expo also has areas where visitors can have hands-on experience. Some authentic dinosaur bones can be touched and even dug out of stone, just like the real thing.